Radical Entertainment is best known for their open world games released on the PS2 and PS3. They set a new standard for open world games when it came to their Hulk Ultimate Destruction release. They managed to provide an enjoyable open world and had gameplay that suited the character. After this, they took what they had learned and adapted it into a completely original IP. During the PS3, they wanted to blend open world action with a mystery-like story with Prototype. The game was dark and more violent to fit the setting. Oddly enough, before Radical Entertainment was releasing solid open world titles, they were making smaller games. On the PS1, they had the opportunity to work with Jackie Chan and adapt the actor in an original adventure. The plan was to capture his unique fighting style and humor in a game. Join me as we take a look back at Jackie Chan, Stuntmaster. The original idea for a new action game featuring Jackie Chan had been an idea at Radical Entertainment for a long time. The lead designer came up with the idea, and when the studio got in contact with Jackie, things started to fall into place to make this idea into an actual video game. As a result, this was sort of a passion project for the studio, and they had no intentions of just making an average game and letting Jackie's license do all of the heavy lifting. The team wanted to respect the actor and display what makes him special in a video game. The developers described Jackie as a martial arts fighter with personality, and it was important to really capture those elements of him. Jackie Chan was known as someone who used whatever he could find in an environment during a fight scene. The team felt that Jackie's skill set would lend itself well to an action platformer. To ensure they captured the authenticity to Jackie's movements and moves, they did extensive motion capture work with the actor to create a great representation of him in the game. This was Jackie's first experience acting and providing motion capture for a video game. He found the experience to be very different than film and said that you had to use your imagination a lot. For example, if a car was coming right at him, they couldn't actually have a car on the motion capture stage. So Jackie would react like he needed to dodge an actual car coming at him. Jackie Chan would be the star of the game, providing both his voice, motion capture, and likeness to the game. But he was also a consultant on the project itself. He was a big proponent on maintaining his signature humor in it as well. The team wanted to deliver a lot of action while having a through line of humor throughout the game. This was even incorporated into the pickups that the player could grab and use as weapons, like a fish. The story for the game revolved around a rival martial arts star who has stolen film reels from Jackie Chan's newest movie. This would give a good excuse for Jackie to pursue those who stole his film, and see different spots of Hong Kong in levels. Later in development, this shifted into being a more personal story where Jackie is trying to rescue his kidnapped grandfather. Jackie Chan's Stuntmaster was shaping up to be an action platformer that captured Jackie's style of martial arts along with his humor. The actor was heavily involved in the project and worked with the developers to create the game. In March 2000, Jackie Chan's Stuntmaster was released to the world. Jackie Chan's Stuntmaster is an action platformer with a charming presentation and a healthy dose of humor. When it comes to the beat-em-up action, there is a good amount of different combos that you can use, along with plenty of weapon pickups adding even more variety. The platforming is probably the most annoying aspect of the game. This is mainly due to the instant death sections. Thankfully, the game is consistently funny and mostly enjoyable to play.
Too old for this. Maybe we should talk about this.
For Jackie's moveset, you can punch, kick, grab, strafe, roll, and counter. You can mix and match these different moves for a variety of combos. Mixing up your punches and kicks allows you to make quick work out of most enemies. Your roll is your means of defense, and you can even perform an attack after a roll. For example, you can roll right into an uppercut, allowing you to juggle an enemy for a short time. Even your grabs can be personalized, as a normal grab will allow you to push an enemy away from you, or even off the stage. And when you mix in a grab with a punch or kick, you will perform a different move. The beat 'em up action is pretty good with good sound effects for your hits. They have decent impact while maintaining that lighter tone that the game is going for. To go along with Jackie's improvising nature to his fighting, you can use chairs and tables in the environment as weapons, like flipping them at enemies. Or there will be things in the environment when broken they can fall on a henchman. The best part about these are the different weapon pickups that allow you to hit many of the enemies at once and do much more damage. You can use everything from poles to brooms and even beating someone up with a fish. Even the walls in the environment can help you out as you flip off of them for more combo opportunities. The action is well presented and the best part about the gameplay.
Anyone got an aspirin?
Something that I really enjoyed about Jackie Chan's Stuntmaster was how there was no tutorial for the introduction. We have the opening cutscene and then we get right into the game. The initial area acts like a hub area so that you can go to the different levels. In fairness, this hub area is a good place to experiment with your moveset before you go up against any enemies. Something from this time period was how tutorials were not generally forced upon the player, and this is something that I really liked from this time in gaming. There is an element about the game where it lets the player experiment with the buttons and discover things for themselves. These small moments of discovery, even in a beat 'em up, stay with the player longer because of it. Each of the different sections are made up of 3 levels with a final boss in that area. The bosses are enjoyable encounters, and they feature a humorous defeat cutscene at the end of them. You can even unlock a short but sweet level in a temple, where Jackie can use his drunken master style on his enemies. Jackie Chan's Stuntmaster is a really funny game. Jackie will make a comment every time you pause, along with some funny remarks when he falls into water. You can even get him to say and do several things if you just let him remain idle in a level. Sometimes he will even start singing. The presentation and humor is an area where this game excels. From the fun combat to the humor, the game really does sell what makes Jackie Chan special. Here's a few parts from the opening cutscene that appropriately sets the tone for the game.
It's very important that you give this package your utmost attention. If I find out that you're loafing around at that cafe again, stuffing your face, oh...
Don't worry, grandfather. I'm on my way.
Isn't that your grandson?
Grandfather! Look out! Keep the chase.
Jackie Chan's Stuntmaster is a really enjoyable game, but there are parts that will really frustrate you. Most of the game consists of fun beat-em-up action, but there are parts that are dedicated to platforming. The platforming can be really annoying. This is mainly due to a lot of the jumping parts having instant death sections. There is something off generally when it comes to the platforming, and it only hurts the game. But as you die, you will notice how the game has a pretty good checkpoint system, but this also reveals how the game has really long load times, with you needing to restart the level over again if you lose all of your continues. There are even parts in the platforming sections that feel like they are trying to get one over on the player, and they feel really cheap. There are other parts that can result in an instant death, like getting run over by a car in the early levels. I wish that I only took damage from this instead of completely dying. The platforming and instant deaths surrounding it are the 2 worst parts about the game. There are other smaller issues, like how I wish that weapon pickups lasted just a bit longer since they break too quickly. Along with that, I wish you could grab an enemy while they are lying on the ground. Even with these issues, the good heavily outweighs the bad in the game. The beat-em-up action is solid and very fun, and the charming and humorous presentation brings this game up another level. Jackie Chan's Stuntmaster is a game that I have fond memories of, and it holds up pretty well. Jackie Chan's Stuntmaster is an underrated game, in that it deserves more attention than it ever got. It is a very enjoyable game with lots of humor and good beat-em-up action, though the platforming and instant death parts do bring down the game a bit and cause some frustration. Thankfully, most of the game is full of enjoyable moments. This is another example of where I wish that these developers were able to make a sequel to this. If they could expand the combat a bit, tell a similar story with the established good humor, and improve the platforming, we could have had a sequel that potentially was much better than the first. This game is a nice piece of nostalgia for me, as like with many, I was introduced to Jackie Chan through his American action comedies with the Rush Hour films and Shanghai Noon. I love returning back to these movies since they always make me laugh, deliver good action and stunts with some very funny bloopers. Jackie Chan's Stuntmaster delivers what one would want from a game based on Jackie Chan during the PS1. It will make you laugh and smile the whole way through. I highly recommend this one, and thank you very much for watching.